Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here today, or I should say this afternoon on Friday. I am very excited for this one today because we have a special guest who I'll introduce here in just a moment as we talk about the multifamily space, the tenant experience, and Brilliant and ButterflyMX tying it all in together. Now, before we jump into that, a couple of housekeeping things I do want to take care of first. Number one, this webinar is being recorded, so if for some unfortunate circumstance were to happen, you have to step away, that's okay. We'll be following up and you'll be able to watch the full recording of the presentation, so no worries on that front. Additionally, because of the number of people, we do want to make sure that we get a good clean audio, so everyone is muted. Now, that said, we do encourage you to please ask all the questions that you might have, type them into the question field. If they are topically relevant, I'll do my best to bring it up as we're having our conversation. If not, we'll be sure to leave time at the end to answer every single question that comes on through. So please, guys, don't be bashful. Go ahead and toss those questions in. Yeah, we'll probably run about 30, maybe 40 minutes or so, have some great dialogue and pick this fine gentleman's brain. And with that, it's probably an appropriate time to introduce him. So he was formerly a senior business analyst over at Accenture, also a senior product manager at Trulia, formerly the director of product management at Shopkick, and now for us for the last 2+ years, he's been the director of product management and UX for Brilliant, the one, the only Mr. Gaurav Hardikar. Gaurav, thank you so much for joining us today. How you doing?
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I mean, it's great to talk about this. I mean, I personally have ButterflyMX in my condo building itself, so I use this integration that we'll be talking about on a pretty regular basis. So yeah, let's kick it off.
That's excellent. I see you've been sheltering in place while you have a nice bit of scruff going there. It grows full for you. It doesn't quite do it for me, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's been also interesting to try growing a mustache out, so been fun.
Yeah, always got to keep it interesting during these times. So what we'll be talking about today as far as the agenda goes, we talk about the smart apartment experience for the tenants that are out there. We'll be continuing on with the experience for the building operators and the gated community. So a lot of the people like yourselves that are joining, just to get a feel and perspective of what's important for them. Also talk about that positive impact of what Brilliant can do and ButterflyMX can do together for your tenants and those residents, and the integration and ease for them. And of course, you know, at the end of the day, it all has to make money and make financial sense, so that kind of builder financial benefit too. So as we start to look at this space, Gaurav, we know that smart devices are really capturing much of the public attention, but an intuitive experience is probably what tenants like yourself are looking for in their apartments, are they not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that when you're thinking about smart apartments and smart units in a building that you're renting in, you don't have all the luxuries that you would if you were, for example, like owning a house or building a house and putting whatever you want in there. You're limited by like what you can bring in. So it's important when you go into a rental unit, what is being provided to you? How can you use all the devices that you see online, or as you're talking to your friends, like smart lighting, climate, all of that stuff needs to be embedded in there. And so I think that's where a lot of times residents are coming in with an expectation of like, okay, well, I want to buy these devices that I'm seeing around on all these ads and in general, but how do I really get that done in an actual multifamily building? And I think that's something that that Brilliant is really looking to solve.
No, absolutely. I mean, we see it all the time, and it's part of the story that we talk about is that, homes and apartments, they're generally not smart, but it's a bunch of smart devices that have been filled up and put inside. But without that system that, takes it, that connectivity to that next level, in this case, all the way from the sidewalk into the home and the couch and the apartment, that's kind of that missing link, because if you take those pieces away and now it's just the same standard apartment. So trying to find that link, trying to find that tying together is really where I think this brings a lot of value.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think when we're looking at the market itself, everyone's been trying to solve it just from the mobile app perspective, which I think the mobile app is obviously very key. It's, we use it for almost everything at this point. But when you're inside the home, I think, especially when it comes to multifamily, you want something embedded into the wall. And the reason you want that is because it's an easy way to surface as both a hub as well as, it's a central place for someone to get notified on anything, even if they don't have their phone next to them. Or what if you have kids and they don't have a phone? So I think like that's where Brilliant has come in and said, okay, well, not only are we going to offer you that mobile app experience and as you said, from sidewalk, couch, whatever, being able to control your home from a central location. But it's going to be something that's applicable for any person in the home, not just that owner or that primary resident or whoever that admin is.
Yeah, so what would you say is a really compelling experience? I think what we're seeing a lot in this industry right now is that there's a lot of, okay, we know we want to do this. What do I do? What is that solution? What do I provide? What is really a compelling experience for the tenants that would make them gravitate towards a smart apartment over a not smart apartment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really being able to control all of your things remotely. That's another one that really matters, which is what the mobile app experience does. And then the second piece, which is how do you allow anyone, once you have all your devices that are smart, how do you allow that to be automated? So smart automation, being able to set schedules, all that kind of stuff is important. And B, how do you allow all of the people that ever enter your own home actually use it? And I think that second piece that I just described is what a lot of our competitors do not do well. I think it's a lot of, okay, well, what did I name that thing? Okay, I don't know how to find it, or I don't know what to call it. Or it's, hey, I only have access to my smart light if I hand you my phone. I think those just aren't realistic in human, interaction. And I think that we're trying to go after how do we make it more human for everyone.
Yeah, I think a really great question to ask, whether it be your tenants, other people in the house, or generally even people involved in technology is, how is your family using the technology inside the apartment or the home? And I know that answer for me traditionally was always, oh, I'm doing it. Like, so it's Ryan do the lights, Ryan do the music, Ryan do the locks. And that's great. I feel really empowered, but then I'm realizing, okay, it's smart for me. Is it really smart for everyone that's here, whether it be, family that I'm living with, whether friends that come on over, and there's definitely a disconnect there.
Yeah, and I think, like what I talked about right now is more a generic, like, okay, what does anyone want in their smart home? I don't think that changes when you go to the multifamily sector from a tenant perspective as much, because you're just, you're a consumer, you're a user, you want to have the same kind of functionality regardless whether you're in a home or in multifamily. The big difference is when you interact with the building, because now you're in a multifamily section. So now you're saying, okay, well, I'm not in a single family home, I'm in a multifamily building. How do I get my packages? How do I let people in the door and into the building? And how do they come to my door? Like all of those things are really is like what, especially when we're, for the current topic we're going into, that's where ButterflyMX comes in, and that's where Brilliant ButterflyMX for the tenant or resident really matter. Where now you're allowing anyone in the home to say, okay, like, maybe I'm away from my phone, maybe I'm not there, but someone else is who doesn't have the ButterflyMX app or Brilliant app or anything like that. Then they're in the home, they see the Brilliant panel on the wall, and they're able to just say, okay, you're able to come in, I grant you access. Like that's the differentiator.
That's huge right now as we start to think of, the interesting times that we're in with, COVID-19, all this shelter in place. I don't know about you, but my personal Amazon purchases have actually gone up because I can't go to the store. Additionally, I thought an interesting one was food delivery is actually going up. You've probably had a little bit yourself too,
Yeah, no, I mean, my Amazon already was high, and that's gone even more up. So yeah, I mean, that's where, if you don't have a doorman or anything like that, it is probably right now your doorman is probably not there. I'm guessing like mine isn't. And so like now ButterflyMX is really serving as that purpose where I can let anyone in who like a UPS or USPS person that may not have regular access to the building. And they'll just like basically dial my unit, and then I can just press grant access from either, if they call me, it's from a Brilliant or from the app itself.
Yeah, so really the importance for that, tenant experience, never missing a package, never missing a delivery, that becomes even more capable now. I know certain buildings, unfortunately, they don't have great, cell signal or great Wi-Fi. So if we're limited to just the app, there is that potential for it to miss, and that's not a product's fault. That's just cell signal and Wi-Fi, and that's just the nature of how it works. So by adding this extra layer of putting a Brilliant on top, great, now we're always going to get that food delivery. We're always going to get that package notification. I want to read to you real quick. We were doing some digging and found some great stats on actually food delivery, because there's been this big push to the Great American Takeout or the Great American Delivery right now. We have here that 60% of US consumers actually order delivery or takeout at least once a week. 34% of those customers spend at least $50 on that order when they're doing it, so they definitely don't want to be missing it. Digital ordering and delivery has actually grown 300% faster than dine-in traffic since 2014. So I think this is an interesting trend that's just getting accentuated right now to see how people are evolving and expanding their business opportunities, that this is going to be really important from the tenant experience too. That this is not a fad. Like, yes, there might be a little extra boost right now, but it's probably going to continue when they see the success and the experience that they're getting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really interesting piece. And then I know we've talked about a little bit, we've mentioned ButterflyMX. I think now would be a good time to probably delve a little bit more into who they are. If you are, say, a building operator or owner and you need some interesting tidbits on kind of that access and entry. Gaurav, can you give us a kind of a high level, and I can give some numbers into ButterflyMX, who they are, what they do? I think that'd be great.
Yeah, so I mean, ButterflyMX manufactures these access panels, and they basically go on specific doors. They also work with package delivery rooms and even elevators. And their the entire value they bring for both the operator and the tenant is kind of what I just described to you in that kind of scenario. Is like you're able to manage access, you're able to grant keys to people, you're able to, instead of using the old school, like I'm gonna use an intercom to like talk to a unit, you're able to contact them over multiple channels, which in this case is your mobile phone, your cell, the Brilliant. These are different ways you can communicate with the person at your building door and let them in or talk to them directly. I think that the package door example, like, in my experience, like, yeah, I get a notification saying, hey, like there's a new package for you in your package room. And that's awesome. Or if someone comes and says, or like UPS doesn't have access to that building, then I get a notification saying, hey, like I'm at your door, can you let me in so I can drop it off? I think those are all very important for the tenant. And I think for the operator, I mean, they're constantly struggling with how do I manage the package rooms? How do I manage, letting people inside? I mean, offloading that to the actual tenants and residents is like, it's a win-win. There's no question about it.
It saves them tons of time, tons of energy and effort. And to give an idea of, kind of the scope of ButterflyMX, they're actually in over 4,000 buildings, managing over 400,000 apartments, offer video calling, virtual keys, like you talked about. They work in the multifamily space, student housing space, gated communities, senior living. Additionally, they are working with some of the biggest and trusted names that are out there in the multifamily sector, like CA Ventures, like Greystar, like Lennar. We encourage you to do some homework on them. Check out their website, butterflymx.com. A lot of great insight and intel into what they can do. And I think that's a great transition into Gaurav. How did this partnership really come to be? Why do we make this decision to say, all right, I think this is a great option to add into that brilliant family of partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it has a lot to do with the tenant experience piece. So I think, we've spent a lot of time talking about that earlier, but, how do you like I said, everyone comes in thinking, like for the unit experience, you're still the same person, so you're going to want the same thing. So our residential experience is already there. But like you're going into, if Brilliant as a whole is thinking about going into a multifamily and really focusing on that sector, we have to think about how do we make that user experience also the best it can be. And ButterflyMX is that partner. And so like we honestly love the opportunity working with them. It's going well in terms of partnership and integration. And you can see the experience come to life the minute you have your butterfly integration on Brilliant and you get that call. I think it's just like, it's actually very similar and analogous to what we do in the residential space for Ring, where if you have someone ring the doorbell on your smart single family home, you get a notification on your Brilliant control and you're easily able to let them in from any part of your home. It's the same thing, except now you're in a building, so you can't just open your door, you gotta open the building. So
a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
So that's really, I guess from our point of view, really what makes it a really compelling system to bring to everyone, because as these building operators and building managers start to piece together a system, now we're getting it truly from all the way at the front into the home, and then like we talked about earlier, working with those devices, so it's not requiring any sort of extra hub or extra panel. It's just native to the system. It's native to the apartment.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, just like with all of our integrations, it's free to the user. It's, you just tap on add device or add integration, and then you can just choose ButterflyMX and then log in with your ButterflyMX login, and then that's it. So it's very simple for the user as well to actually link them up.
Nice. Now, let's say I am a building operator right here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more technology that's going to be going into these apartments. How can Brilliant and ButterflyMX really enhance that experience, whether it be from doing a walkthrough for a potential tenant to come on in, kind of walk me through what that could be.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I talked a bit already about how ButterflyMX adds to the operator experience and why it's valuable for them, which is mainly packaged room and really passing that ownership of letting people in to the actual resident rather than keeping that just with like a doorman or someone else. So it helps them immensely by reducing their management and also probably operating expenses.
Mm-hmm.
From our side as well, where Brilliant comes in and what we're building towards, which is we're currently beta testing with partners, is how do we allow the operator from a central place to control and monitor their smart homes, especially when vacant. When occupied, obviously, it's in the hands of the resident. But while vacant, how do we help manage those transitions between how do I self-show or how do I show a unit, right? So like, how is it possible for me to pass that over and say, you know what, Ryan, we're gonna make sure that you may not be a resident yet, but here's a window of time that you can go enter this building. The unit will be set up for you. You can go access it, and then just do it on your own time. You have like 2 days to do it. Or, that's just an example, right? That's one place where you're really allowing a better experience for the user, but also on the operator side, you're saving them a lot of time and kind of like you have to schedule it, you have to like make sure the unit's ready for it. You can actually do that all remotely through Brilliant. And the other piece is move in, move out. How do you make sure all of the credentials are managed? How do you make sure that you're onboarding the tenant properly? How do they use only one experience through the entire process? That's really the goal that we're going after. And at the end of the day, it's about operating expenses, reducing that for the operator, and really helping them differentiate themselves from competitors in terms of resident experience. So, part of that operating experience, operating cost that I talked about is definitely making it easier to do these, like showing a tenant a unit or moving in, moving out. But the other part is what happens if you have, let's say you're in Texas and it's like the middle of the summer, it's 100 degrees outside, and for some reason a unit's set to 55 degrees. Now, you'd probably want to know that really, really immediately, and you want to take care of that fast. And maybe it's incorrect setting, or maybe that something's malfunctioning. You want to know that as soon as possible. Could the same thing applies to leak detectors? Same thing applies the opposite way, where you're in the middle of winter and you haven't turned on the heat in a vacant unit. So it's the same kind of, these are kind of just some examples of where having smart devices and having that constantly connected to a central system can really offer a lot of value for an operator.
Yeah, no, that's big. I think if you think about the vacancy rates that are currently in apartment complexes, and I think there's a bit of trepidation right now just with the times. And if you look back on the past, and I want to make sure I did some digging for this, I got my notes right here. So this is from an article from Multi-Housing News. With vacancy rates, just because COVID-19 and the economy, it actually looked back to the previous recessions in 2001 and 2008 and 9, and vacancy rates seem to have a floor, and this is a quote. During 2001, vacancies dipped to only 93% nationally, and while in 2008, 2009, they fell to 92% nationally. So these vacancy rates, if it does go up a little bit, unfortunately, the ability to manage these open apartments, making sure, like you said, the AC isn't cranking or the heat isn't cranking or something like that, starts to add on to a lot of building operational savings, which is going to be paramount, because heat and AC, those are two big drivers of cost, are they not?
Absolutely. And even the leak detection, that can be some of the costliest things for an operator if you don't catch that in time.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting play in the leak detection and all the smart stuff. So, I think from a product portfolio, Gaurav, with the partnerships that we have, we'd love to get extra insights on us. I know you can't tell us everything. What are going to be those things that, we are probably going to be putting an emphasis on to make sure a good product portfolio is rounded out for these guys? Something like leak detection, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that as we're thinking about how we go forward in the multifamily sector, we have to come up with a solution that really fits what every person needs. So I think from the operator side, yeah, I think leak detection is definitely important. I think having climate and making sure being able to manage that, as you mentioned, is very important. And Brilliant is providing the lighting solution, right? I mean, you have Brilliant, you have Control, you have this Brilliant smart plugs and smart dimmer switches that are coming out in June. All of that becomes lighting. So like, lights, climate, leak detection, being able to like control that remotely, and then like working with an access control partner to make sure that we can also, really simplify and streamline the, move in, move out, and transitional processes is really helpful.
Yeah, sorry to interject there real quick. As far as I was just thinking of more savings and opportunities here from building management. If you go with a building access control system like ButterflyMX, you actually are no longer needing to pull wire throughout the entire building when you partnered up ButterflyMX and Brilliant, because now with our Brilliant panels in the wall, we're getting those notifications. That ButterflyMX panel at the front, that just needs one line drop to it. So more savings on that front. Was just kind of racking through my head. I'm like, I know we have more savings here. We got to make sure we're telling these guys about
it. Yeah.
But continuing on here, I think like looking for what the proper package looks like, walk us through an example package, right now that's something that's maybe out there for us, Gaurav.
Are you talking about for the operator perspective or the?
No, from a tenant perspective. So like I'm a building owner operator right now, and I know I want to get involved with smart. Great, ButterflyMX and Brilliant seems like the first piece to it. What would you say you come to me for and say, hey, what are you looking for? How do we build up that package together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look in the market right now, it's very straightforward. It's basically you have a hub, you have climate, and you have lighting. I think that's the basic thing that everyone has. I think that when you get into much more established ones, you could get into access control, intercom systems, and that's like where ButterflyMX comes in, and also like any lock or access control providers, like let's say Salto or Doorman or whatever you want to call it. Like those are other ones as well.
Yep.
And I think that you want to be able to have a combination of that for whatever your needs are. I think the way Brilliant's going is we have, like I described, we have lighting, we have the climate, through our third-party partners, and then we also have ButterflyMX for the access control piece, and we are the hub also as well. So I think that's a differentiator there is that if you look at other competitors, it's all mobile apps with some generically manufactured devices from climate and so forth. Can't comment on the reliability, but we manufactured our Brilliant control. We know how it's done. It's all designed in-house in America, and I think that having it in the wall is just like I can't stress enough how much of a differentiator it is for the multifamily sector. So I think that not having to replace it every time, it's just there. You just have to reconfigure it if you need to every time you move in or move out, and then so as basically as a multifamily operator, you're going to want all of those things. I think all of them are minimum for kind of having a full solution for your tenant and for an operator. It's just picking and choosing what's important to you when. So I definitely think for the tenant, you want to have the climate and lighting and a hub. I think from the operator perspective, you want all of those plus I think the entire access control piece, both from a lock unlock for the unit door, but also from the building entrance. Like all of those are very important for the operator to manage that for showing units or even moving in or while it's occupied. That's where it transitions into like why ButterflyMX is important, because then at that point you're passing that ownership over to them. So hopefully that gives a good idea of what kind of in the market people are looking for. I think the actual solution per the client and whoever is actually implementing it is going to be different. I think it just had, we want to work with what the operators want.
Nice, that's excellent. And then as they take this leap into technology and we build it out, we understand generally there is a bit of fear with things going out of date. What sort of cautionary things has Brilliant done to make sure that not only do we not go out of date for these guys and they have to replace it every time someone, like every year, something like that, but how we build out our ecosystem as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think Brilliant's built, so Brilliant's foundation is that we are, we make hardware, but we are a software company too. And that means that like everything in our Brilliant control itself, it's OTA updatable, meaning like over the air, it updates. We actually do it every 2 weeks. So the fact that it's constantly being updated is a big thing. That means that we're not going to just deprecate support like that, right? It's going to be there. I think we work with each third party to make sure that we maintain that. And so like, with ButterflyMX, for example, like, I'm constantly in contact with them to understand any new features coming in, anything else we need to test for. Like that's all, it's part of, how we run the product. So I think, I don't think we have to worry about that so much, just because our platform is on, a software code base that we own and we maintain, and everything that we do, we will continually update that if we need it.
Yeah, I think we're aware that we just want to make sure everyone that's in here listening is aware too, because okay, if I just bought this, well, this company just came out with another this or that every new year and they're trying to repeat. And that's just not how we operate as a business model and as a philosophy for us. It's no cost once it's in, it's there. We're always going to upgrade it. We're always going to make it better. I think a key highlight is with our speaker partner Sonos, what it originally was in that integration to what it is today. And Gaurav, can you speak a little just from a basic one of how we continue to evolve our product to show that, hey, this is going to get better over time? I think the Sonos integration is a perfect one to show that we work with these relationships too.
Yeah, I mean, for Sonos, when we first launched that integration, so it showed groups and your devices, but it did not allow you to group and ungroup. And just over the last couple months, we added in Sonos grouping onto the Brilliant control itself. So now with a few taps, you can group and ungroup your speakers however you choose, and then just readjust your Sonos view on your Brilliant however you want. So I think that's a huge one, because I mean I have plenty of Sonoses myself, and it has made a huge difference in how I use it. Sometimes I just don't have my app open, and I think just having it in the wall and being able to just tap a couple of times and do whatever you want is a big deal. And like Ryan's saying, having the ability, you can see that like we recognize that's an important piece to improve on, and we worked with the partner, understood what we needed to do to build it, and we adapted it for our experience. Our goal is not to replicate everything that the partner does, but how can we adapt it to the experience that we have and really show how valuable both our products are.
Yeah, I think if anything, we can understand that products individually, they're all pretty cool, but once you start to, work together and build this out, you can go a lot further in what that residential experience and tenant experience can bring, not just from their side, but also an owner-operator side as well. The more you can partner, the more you can expand out, the better everyone's experience is going to be in the end, and that's kind of what we're all about, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even so, like on that note, when we're talking about ButterflyMX specifically, I mean, we started off on purpose with here's what the experience is going to be that will show the most value to start off with. So like an MVP, if you will, minimum viable product, right? And that was, how do we show it on the control, similar to how we do with Ring, in terms of you ring the doorbell or ring the unit, and it shows up on the Brilliant control. You're able to talk to the person and grant access as soon as possible. And that was the ultimate goal, right? So we chose that. We did it on the control first, and yeah, you'll be able to access it from the mobile app too. But we didn't build in the entire notifications and implement the ButterflyMX SDK in our mobile app yet. That is something that we do recognize and we want to improve on, and like that is something we'll work with the ButterflyMX team, to implement over the next couple of quarters and stuff. So I think it's really about that is something we have to, that you recognize right now, is like we take a conscious decision to say, here's what we think is the biggest value, and based on feedback and what users will say, we will improve it over time.
No, that's perfect. It's actually, I think, a great time to hop into the questions right here. And again, guys, if you do have questions, please type it on in. We'll get to it. This one's just topically relevant. There are several smart intercom systems. Why did Brilliant pick the integration with ButterflyMX?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of answered this a little earlier, but like the main reason is because I think ButterflyMX has focused on current gen technologies and really is open to integration and how to, like, obviously you talked about how they've established them in the market. So I think they were a very great partner for us to talk to, and it's been really awesome working with them. So I think for a partner like them, they've separated themselves, and we're doing the same thing in the residential front, and we're trying to we just were a natural fit.
Nice. That's awesome. Continuing on, do you need to have a doorman if you have Brilliant and ButterflyMX?
Yeah, so I think the thing is you don't really need to, especially it's like for me, for example, my building does a doorman between 9 to 5 on weekdays, and everything else is a virtual doorman. And what is that virtual doorman? It's ButterflyMX. So that is really the solution there. I think, honestly, a lot of times, even during the day, sometimes they'll just ring me instead of the doorman itself. So it's yeah, it becomes your virtual doorman.
You're ordering so much they know you specifically.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's nice. Is there a fee to purchase the integration?
No, like I mentioned before, it's all about having just connecting your ButterflyMX login to your Brilliant, which is done from your control. All you do is select add devices, select ButterflyMX, and then from there it'll walk you through the process to connect it.
That's awesome. With ButterflyMX and Brilliant, is it now possible to allow a resident to self-tour a building and unit? And can you walk us through what that could potentially look like?
Yeah, so right now, you would basically go through the ButterflyMX experience to kind of like give an access key to that person, and then allow them to enter the building. I think that what we are really going towards though is taking that one step further, and this isn't live yet, but it's something we want to go towards, is have the access key come out to the prospective tenant, then they'd be able to enter the building. They would be able to then use Brilliant to actually go into a specific unit, and it could be set up the specific way for showing a tour. But they would have access to actually go inside that unit within a specific period of time. So that's something that I think the ideal experience is, and that's something we want to build towards.
Nice, awesome. What security measures does Brilliant have for my tenants if, for example, they don't want the camera or the voice assistant because you talked about access to the front?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we can disable the camera. Like we have our features for live view within our system itself, and you can disable that very easily in settings. You can also disable the voice assistant. So if you as a tenant want to do that, it's very straightforward. You go into settings, go into Amazon Alexa, and disable it. And then same thing for camera. You go into live view, under privacy, and then you disable that.
Yeah.
So
just quick share that I always like to talk about with everyone on security, especially for the camera feature, because we understand people sometimes they just don't want a camera looking on in. So I always tell them there's 3 things that happen. One, like you said, you can always have it so the camera's not enabled. Second, if the camera is ever being accessed, a little red light comes on the Brilliant, and on the screen it'll tell you, hey, your camera's being accessed. Then third, the most important of all, I actually have one right here. The Brilliant itself does have a physical shutter right there that you can go ahead and close. So that little plastic piece, think of like what you put on your laptops and on your desktops. If there's a physical piece of something blocking your camera like this, I don't care what's going on, you're never going to be able to see me. And generally for a lot of people, they keep that closed, and that's totally all good, and it gives them that peace of mind because, oh, I don't care if the light's not on, I don't care about this, like they're watching me. Peace of mind, I think, is very, very paramount and important. And then even on the microphone side, you can turn it off so it's not waiting for a wake word like, hey, Alexa, do this, Alexa, do that, correct?
Correct, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, awesome. Here we go. Can I buy ButterflyMX and Brilliant together in bulk?
think that's a question back to you, Loki.
That's probably a little bit more of a sales question, but yes, actually, I do have one thing I would like to share with you guys. So I'm going to uh, pull this up real quick and share my screen. So Gaurav, just confirm with me that you can in fact see my screen right now.
Yep, I can.
Excellent. So this is kind of our, call to action, like next steps kind of slide, if you will. So say, hey, I'm a multifamily building operator or partner, and I want to get started with Brilliant and ButterflyMX. First off, you can reach out to either one of us. For Brilliant, it's sales@brilliant.tech. For ButterflyMX, it's sales@butterflymx.com. But really, we want to let you know what we offer. And that's comprehensive training for property managers, operators, and residents. We're going to provide phone support to them, customizable marketing materials to help you guys out. This is where I brought this up, special pricing and incentives, at least from the Brilliant side for the multifamily builders. And we also want to work with you and listen to your feedback and evolve the product as you need. We don't want to do a sort of one size fits all, like here's the one-stop shop, go, you're off and running. We want to make sure we do actually partner with you and build that proper solution. What does the right smart technology portfolio look like for this building over that building? One thing that we like to focus on is, are your residents and tenants more concerned with, say, energy savings? Well, you can build a smart package around that. Is it, keeping up with the latest and greatest? We can build a smart technology package around that. So making sure that we listen to you, what your needs are, is very important for us as we kind of go through this journey of technology together, because we know this is going to be, a standard. The way we look at it, I'm going to stop the share here, is that in 5 to 10 years, every home and apartment is just, they're going to be smart. That's just the way things are going. But we don't call them smart homes or smart apartments. They'll just be your apartment and your home. Just as we call cars today, they're cars, but they're driving themselves, they're parking themselves, they're braking themselves, they're doing all these things. We don't call them smart cars anymore, guys. These are just cars, and we have that kind of same evolution. So we want to make sure we work with you on all of that. Continuing on with some more questions I see here. With Brilliant and Butterfly, do I still get the other integrations, Sonos, Ecobee, and if so, is there any additional costs? What's the kind of I got you moment here? What are you trying to hoodwink me?
There is no cost for any of it. It's the same thing. You can go to add integrations and all of them will be available.
That's fantastic. I love that. So we're not going to hoodwink you?
Nope.
Awesome. Another one here. With technology ever changing with Brilliant and Butterfly, is the panel software upgradable remotely? Technology can become outdated quickly. David, that's a great question. I don't have that exact knowledge for the ButterflyMX panel. I know for Brilliant, ours will not get out of date anytime soon. Gaurav, do you have any more insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, I believe ButterflyMX also updates remotely as well. So we both, I believe, are over there. We'll update.
Yes, and we do have a fantastic individual from ButterflyMX joining. Yes, they are updated remotely, and they will be able to handle that no problem. They push out all the push out features all the time to them, so you don't need to worry about that for either of the partners. If you choose to go with one of us or both of us, that's coming to you automatically. And with that, I'm not seeing any more questions here. I'll leave a little bit more time, but I will say, Gaurav, I think bringing you in and having your insights as our director of product, really helpful and insightful, because you're on the front lines, you're talking and working with these, multifamily developers. And I'd say, I'd love to hear a quick anecdote. How much are they coming to you and being, this is what my apartment building needs, this is what my tenants are demanding? And what's that story that you're hearing that's out there that, hey, this is going to be a standard and I want to be ahead of the curve. I'm trying to keep up with everyone else. Where kind of are we at in that process?
I'll answer that in two separate ways. I think one of it, I think they're coming a lot with, here are my problems. And I think the problems are kind of what we described. So you have the tenant experience and then the actual operator experience, and they're related, right? I mean, you got on the operator side, you have all these costs that you have to deal with on a constant basis. You have to manage all these different things, and you have to continue meeting the demands of the tenant. And I think like they're coming to us, they're saying like, how do we continue managing this, and what's the best way to do it, and how does your solution solve that? So I think like that's how they're approaching it. And I think we're coming back with saying, okay, well, we understand like operating expenses is one thing, tenant experience is another. They're also related. How do we make sure that we provide you a central way of managing it and still give the residents the experience and they want from a smart home. And like you said, like it's we call it smart home right now, but in the future we won't. And I think how do you make that so seamless and native or human that you're not even thinking about it anymore?
Yeah.
So this is the first step, obviously getting there, but that's how really we're hearing from the operators and how we're tackling it ourselves.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a way to differentiate. We're definitely still in that kind of early adopter, maybe getting into first mover. But it really is a way to have it as a competitive advantage to drive up your tenant retention, to be able to keep the customer satisfaction, your tenant retention, keep them happy and engaged with the apartments and happy in the place that they're living in, to make sure they stay with you guys. So I definitely do believe that now is the time to make it a competitive advantage, and a product like Brilliant didn't exist that was out there that was affordable en masse and on scale, because these types of systems, Gaurav, as you know, were tens of thousands of dollars to get this sort of programmable automation and tying it all together into one system. And I think that's a really good place to hear, the story for you, Gaurav. I want to hear. I've told it 100 times. I'd love to hear your perspective, or not perspective, but how you tell the story of how Brilliant came to be and seeing the need for this in the consumer space, a product like Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has their own story. I think obviously it started first with the founders, and a lot goes back to Aaron and how when he was remodeling his home, he just couldn't really find any solution that could actually work for all the guests or anyone that it was in his home. It always came back to your mobile phone has to do this, or oh, sorry, this integration won't work with this other one, and they don't work well together. And so I think the origin always came from it needs to be it needs to be central, it needs to be open, it needs to not worry about which integration is what. It just needs to make sure that we support the devices the user cares about. So really agnostic to any sort of integration, like priority itself. That was definitely one thing that I've from the beginning since I've joined has always been paramount. But separate than that, I think from my own experience, I think that where Brilliant has come in and why it serves a need is because there is no solution out there besides us that services every single person in the home. And second, every single person has a different thing they care about. And the goal really is, how do you make this from a smart home, which has intrinsically a side of, oh, it's technology, to just a home. So like really it's about how do you humanize the smart home. And I think Brilliant is actually doing that. I think we're trying to put it inside of the home itself by making it in the place of the light switch. We have the photo frame there that really actually from day one you're like, oh, that belongs in my home.
Yep.
It's not foreign to me. It's my pictures on the wall.
Yep.
Things like that I think are changing how people perceive technology and make it less of, oh man, I gotta configure this and I need a server room for this, like some of the older automation technologies out there. So like, no, this cost me $300. I put it in my wall, and now I can connect everything out there.
Done. Easy. Nice. Love it. With that, I'm not seeing any more questions. So I want to say a couple things. First off, Gaurav, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I know your time is very valuable, so I really appreciate your insights into this. Additionally, I want to give a big shout out to ButterflyMX. If you're curious about the building access, please, again, check out their website, butterflymx.com. If you want to email them, sales@butterflymx.com. Additionally, for us, you can always check out our website, brilliant.tech. Continue to sign up for more of these webinars as we continue our webinar series. We'll be leading up with more partners, more integrations, more how-tos, and hopefully I'll be able to have more guests like Gaurav join up. And for any information, you can always reach out to us at sales@brilliant.tech. So with that, thank you so much. You get 15 minutes of your day back. Everyone, really appreciate your time. Take care and be safe out there, everyone. All the best.